Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. So, brother, once
We're
again,
back. We're back.
we're back. How are you? So let's start the greetings again. How are you doing on this day, brother?
I'm very well, thank you. Despite all
Okay.
the difficult moments that we live in,
Yeah, it's crazy, yeah?
especially here in New York and the United States in general,
Yeah,
you have to try to find a way to stay sane and be hopeful and
100%.
do what you can for your community in order to kind of show solidarity and that we all together. But otherwise, I'm doing
Exactly.
well, thank you. How about you? How are you?
Brother, I have to say that I'm feeling blessed and thankful for, the life that is bestowed upon us. I mean, we get to,
Of
eat,
course.
breathe, and stay healthy despite all that's going on. Let's not forget that we still have to deal with this whole COVID-19 on top of all the madness and this systemic
Well, I
racism.
say we live in two pandemics right now. Two pandemics the world is facing. Two.
It's massive, and it's looking like it's gonna bring some change. I think I'm hopeful and positive.
I'm
Yeah, yeah,
100% sure. There was never a night without a day. Eventually things happen. A circle after all is complete itself. So, might not be our own generation that will face the true change, the real change that the people are protesting about. But I'm hopeful that, we probably will see a part of it in the next generation. We'll never have to go through this again. So we're paving the way, which I think for me is always fundamental because, the next generation can pick up where we left off and then carry on. So
well,
it's a good time. It's a good moment in time.
I love the fact that you started by almost the last part of the last segment of the conversation. So I love the flow. Let's start from there. What
Let's
do
do
you
it.
think it is that you, as a influential business owner, black man in the industry of fashion, footwear, as a father, what is it that is your, as a son, as a brother, etc.? What is it that you think is a necessary thing that you want to see after you are called for the other realm of life, right? Long after you're gone, long after I'm gone, what is that you want to see your children pick up from, and which kind of world would you like to see for them?
Well, that's a very good question, brother. Thank you for bringing this. Like I told you briefly, and I just want to say this before I answer to you. It's always good that we having these kind of conversations. Moment in time
100%.
like this. This is beautiful because oftentimes when we see each other is when I'm passing by Portugal and Lisbon.
Exactly.
We partying, we having a great time, and sometimes we forget about the most important things that I'm sure that you think about, that I think about, many others. To answer your question, the world I want to see, while I'm here, or even when I'm gone, is the world of equal opportunity. Where there is no discrimination against races, that we can all see each other as human first and foremost. That's the most
Sure.
important thing. We all came to this world because we have something to give, and I think we need to start looking at each other, knowing that if I'm hurting, anybody else is hurting that look like me or that don't look like me, it's my humanity that is hurting. It's my species that is hurting. And I think that's something fundamental that we all need to start thinking about. We can talk about race all we want, but the first step that actually comes to a solution is for us to look at each other as humans, number one. And then from there, we can all differentiate what are the norms of the society and what we want and what we don't want. I would want my kids to live in a world that, they don't have to, be extra precautious just because of their color of skin, or, they have less opportunity because of their color of skin. It's equal opportunity. If they have something to give, they should be able to be treated, equally, and they should be able to have the same respect as everybody deserves. And I'm hopeful, and I think that the fight has started long ago for us to even get to this point, and it's proven and it's showing that the next generation will not tolerate this. And I guess this is why we're seeing this march. We're seeing all these protests going around the world. I'm sure a lot more needs to be done, but it's a huge responsibility, especially as a father, a black
Of
man living
course,
in
man.
America. It's a tough place to be to have these conversations, but one of the things that I discussed as a family is that I will refuse to have this conversation with my children to say to them, be extra careful when you any, situation where you have to face law enforcement, because, they have to just simply be, themselves. They're human beings. They have all right to be in the world, and I'm sure they should simply treated as such. You shouldn't be in a position to have to sit your kids down and talk to them to say, if you encounter yourself in this situation, be this. Because other parents are not doing that to their children. So, why should we? And I think it gets deeper, and we can talk about this. This could be a subject on its own.
Sure, but it's important to talk about it. So I believe that it's necessary, and I love the fact that you kicked off the conversation, addressing that topic, which is a tremendously important one, especially when I've had this conversation with a couple of friends, and
looks like a very good weather.
The weather is great. Actually, it's Portugal, man. The weather is great, windy but great. I had a conversation where we were talking about, for example, okay, we are outraged, and for obvious reasons, about what is happening in America, and it's obviously necessary to actually speak our voices and let the people in command that this cannot continue. Sure enough. Yet at the same time, I've noticed a bit of a dissonant situation where we are seeing young girls being raped, being killed. For example, not so long ago, just a couple of days ago in Nigeria, 3 girls. One was raped in a church. One was I don't know the other. 2 girls were raped. One in a church, etc. One was killed by a cop, 16 years old. Like incredible amount of display of the worst thing that human nature can do. And nobody said a thing about that. And at the same time,
that's the change that have to come about. That's the change that have to come about. I think I don't want to, hurt anybody's feelings, but I think if we have to go back and look into
we're here for that.
This started long ago. Roman Catholic Church, the Portuguese, and then everything trickled down. So this conversation is deep. Like we all know, if you're building a house, you have to start off from the foundation up. And I think that this is definitely going to stir some, opportunity for us to be able to go back to the foundations of the world in general. This is not just in America. This is everywhere, like you said.
Exactly.
And for so many years, I think we live with the pain of thinking it's okay. Maybe pain is all right, but it's not anymore. We can't. We can't. We are great contributors to our society. A lot of us, like yourself, and many of our friends, are doing incredible works, contributing to this society tremendously. And I think that if we can't look at that and say that we all belong here and we all have the same right to be and coexist with each other, then I don't know what else will happen.
Well, talking about
right now,
knowing how to coexist, being able to acknowledge the other requires some level of education. And from that perspective, allow me to then, start from actually where I wanted to start initially, and ask maybe for you to tell our viewers, first of all, how did you, being from the African continent, from Guinea-Bissau, exactement, and sort of like the upbringing of you. How has that impacted you? What was your childhood like? What was it, living in Guinea? Or tell us about your upbringing.
Sounds good.
Share that with us, please.
Well,
this will ricochet to where I'm going, but please go ahead.
Exactly. No, absolutely. Look, first of all, I was born in Guinea-Bissau, and I'm from Guinea-Bissau. I'm African, 100% by way of Portugal. I came to Portugal at a young age, where I grew up, and if I recall my childhood, it was all we used to do. We never worried about this. We didn't worry about running around and being, chased by cops and all that stuff. So it was a very happy,
Hmm.
upbringing, childhood, and that's the world I want to see moving forward for my children and for many others. And I think, for me, I feel privileged that I
Hmm.
was able. When I look at myself, and you ask me, who am I? I
Hmm.
always consider myself a citizen of the world
Hmm.
because born in Guinea-Bissau, grew up in Portugal, educated in London, and now reside in New York.
Hmm.
It's just it's a vast accumulation of
Sure.
experiences, vast
Hmm.
accumulation of like a different cultures that I had to kind of like live within and find my
Hmm.
way to adapt within. And I think that's enriching and and it's very powerful if you see that I'm able to kind of like take from all of these places and to identify myself as like a citizen of the world. And I think I had a tremendous impact on me and who I am today, especially now that I know who I am and where I want to go. As we all know, the whole they say, you have to know where you come from to know where you're going.
Hmm.
More than ever now, I know where I want to go because I know
Hmm.
where I come from.
Hmm.
And I think all that is a part of who I am, and that's pretty much what's displaying right now. I don't know what would be equivalent to you, but as an immigrant, first of all, leaving Guinea-Bissau, my parents in Portugal, and looking for a better life. Then from there to go to London, from London to New York, it was just like it was that unrest of wanting to do better and always going to the places where I feel like I could meet my end goal. And that was just a life lesson that I don't take for granted, and I think is very uh, it describes who I am today. And
Hmm.
it, yeah, I think I'm a citizen of the world, if you ask me. And but yeah, I know where my roots are from, and I'm very proud of who I am.
Hmm.
And I just want to be part of this great society that we all in.
And how would you say so? What actually, better yet, what actually got you to eventually, when your parents took you guys, I believe, to Portugal for a better
Yeah,
life,
yeah.
giving you guys a better future. Uh, how did you come about entering the world of fishing? Because you entered at a very very young age. You're a very famous, male model, I believe, one of the pioneers in the field. So
Yeah,
please tell us about that experience, being a pioneer, just like very much like Alec Weck,
he's
and
actually my neighbor here in New York.
you feel me?
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about that, please. I wanna
Yeah.
I wanna have that understanding of what that experience was and how did it come about.
Absolutely. Well, look, growing up in Portugal, I think I always say this. If you asked me this maybe 5 years ago, my answer would have been straight like that kid that, I went with my sister to her agency. But that's actually when I look at it and I go back, I realize that I've always had fashion references around me from my
Mm.
home. My
Hmm.
father was always like, uh, at the time during the colonial time in Guinea-Bissau, he was um, equivalent to sort of like what would you call a mayor of a town. And so it was always, for him dressing up and,
Mm.
was always a thing for him.
Sartorial.
Exactly, exactly. So that was always him. And obviously, he's a guy that studied in France when he was young, and then went back to Guinea-Bissau, and then all of that, and then, in Portugal. So dressing up and the way he presented himself was always important. But that was always around me, and I never knew about it. And I remember at a very young age, I think, I can't recall exactly what age, but I knew how to tie the tie like when I was like very young, literally like very, very young. Before he goes to work, he would ask me to, tie his
Style,
tie and
style.
then give it to him. And then, so, but that was always there. And my mother actually was a tailor, even though she didn't do it like I guess at least before I was born. I didn't know it, but she always had a machine at home and she would fix out t-shirts. And if you wanted to, you have a pants or something, she would always fix it. And I think that was my first entry, first reference within fashion, but it was never anything that registered
Mm.
until, uh, 1999, I believe it was. And my sister, 1999, 2000. My sister was a model. My older sister, fortunately passed away already. Um, she invited me one day. I came from school. She said, "Hey, I'm going to my class today because in Portugal back in the day, you had to take a I think 2 weeks class if you wanted to be a model,
Okay.
and where they teach you, runways and how to
Mm-hmm.
take pictures and all that stuff." So that day, she didn't want to go alone, and she asked me if I, would like to go with her. I said, "Sure."
Mm-hmm.
Go, and I got there, and then they had a class that day, and they didn't want me to just be lingering around and sitting in the corner. They told me, they said, "Well, you can join, it's fine." So it was actually a runway class that day.
Wow. So,
Yeah, so
would you say you were natural then? Because it seems like after that, your career just took off.
but I didn't think so. You know what? That's the thing. I didn't think I was like, because I did the runway, and the guy was like, "Wow, you're pretty good. You're pretty good." And then, obviously they had this big mirror right in front of you. You're walking straight to the mirror and you're looking at yourself. You're like, "Oh, shoot. So that's what the thing was inside of my head. But what I was thinking, I said, you know what? I think obviously, it's a school. They're looking for people to pay for it. So I'm sure they're going to say I'm good just so that I can be a part of the class. And, they asked me, said, you would be really good if you really take this seriously. So I had to convince my sister. Obviously, I was very young at that time. I had no means to pay for that school if I wanted to. So I talked to my sister to help me, and she did. And she said, "Look, under one condition, you're not going to miss one class." So I said, "Sure, absolutely. I promise I will not miss one class." And then, I think I took the course with her for like 2 weeks and stuff. And then after that, I got a couple shots. And it happened that my father was already looking for ways for me to go to London to study. And I think, but he never understood what modeling was or fashion world. For him, that wasn't a profession. It was nothing. It was something that you want to do when
Of
you're
course,
young.
now. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
That was just for him, and he was always prioritizing education. So it was like, I remember him saying, "What is wrong with you guys? Why are you getting involved in this thing? It's fun to do it, but you shouldn't do it for so long." And right after that, he packed my bag and everything. He's like, "You're going to London to study."
Wow.
Which I didn't rebel against for some reason. I'll tell you why. Because, was important when I was in Portugal growing up at that time. I was like, it would have been exciting if I go to a new place. And London for me, this aspect of it was very exciting. So I didn't rebel against it. I said, "Sure." I went to London. Little did I know, I got to London. It was pretty much the welcoming, city in terms of what I had in my mind.
Of
Every
course.
time I walked on the street, people would come up to me and was like, "Yo, are you a model? You want to be a model? Oh my God, you should go to agencies." Literally every day, it's like this, that, and I was like, you know what? I
Why
actually
not?
might listen to these guys. Why not? I'm gonna take a leap of faith and just gonna go to the agencies and see what happens. I went to all the agencies, brother, top agencies, literally all the agencies in London. All of them said no. It was like I took a
What?
day from morning to evening. It was like afternoon. It was just like everywhere I go, they're like 5 minutes. They look at the book I brought from Portugal. They go like this. "Oh, thank you." So I'm moving on. Next one. "Oh, thank you." But I guess this is one of their characters about me that, I wasn't discouraged at all. I was just like, okay, so something must be wrong here. On the streets, people think I'm a model, and then I go to the agencies and everybody thinks so. So the last agency I went to was, it's called Nebs, and it still exists to this day. It's basically a cross between high fashion and commercial. It's not like the top agency that was just strictly focused in fashion. They pretty much get more of the commercial job. They have some models that do high fashion stuff, but not so much. But they preach those.
Yeah.
They said no. So in my understanding, I said, okay, if Premier said no, if ICM said no, if Storm said no, I understand, because I definitely probably am not part of that league yet. Nebs, I should have an opportunity. So what I did, I went back to the house. I waited for 2 months, 2.5 months, went back again, and they said no again. And I said, okay. I went back again. I waited for another 3 months. I went back again. And they said no again. But the difference this time was that I said to them, well, look, why are you saying no when, people come to me all the time asking me if I'm a model, I should be a model. They give me the contacts of places to go. And I just want to know, what can I do? And they said, well, nothing is wrong with you per se. It's more about your book. Your book is very weak for us at this right moment. Go work on your book, and when you're done, you can come back to us. So my question was, how do you improve yourself when you don't have an agency, when you're not, signed? But there's an opportunity. It was up to me whether I was going to give up or I was going to do something for, to create an opportunity that I wanted for myself. So I went back to the house and I went to their website and I printed a couple of pictures of a couple of guys that I kind of liked, their looks and their pictures. And I printed a couple of pictures. I think altogether it was about 6. And then I started working. I went to get a job at Zara, at the time, because I was studying as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
you were studying business, right? You were studying finance.
Business, yes. Which was the main purpose of me going to London first. I went to London to study architecture.
Okay.
Then when I got there, I decided that I didn't want to do architecture because of the length of the the stuff. But anyways, we'll get to that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I took the pictures and then I found a photographer. I went to him and I said, I want to take these pictures. Took the pictures, and the guy looked at me in the end after. He said, I promise you will have no problem finding an agency. For the years I've been, taking pictures of like new faces, I've never seen anyone that came here so ready and knew exactly what he wanted. It said, come back in a week if you're ready. And pictures came back, they looked great, and then I took them, went straight back to Nebs again.
Boom.
And that time I got signed, and that was the beginning of everything.
Wow, man. So
that was the journey.
Perseverance, determination, and maybe adjusting a little bit the way you were going to shoot that bullet, and that was it. Boom, you marked it.
Absolutely. But brother, this is a thing for me that today I can talk about me. I couldn't articulate or, form these ideas about me before. I finally realized that this is part of who I am. When something is important to me, I never give up, and I've shown that through my modeling career and through starting my own business and with my life to this day. It's always been like that. And then I finally realized that this is a fundamental. It's not always that people are going to get your idea right on the first go.
Sure.
But if it's important to you, it's up to you to be able to kind of continue to show people that this is the direction. And eventually, you will figure out a way to work on it. And I have this say for many years where it's like, if you knock on the door long enough, you're going to wake somebody.
Oh, brother, thank you very much for saying this, because we are entering in an age where people are so easily discouraged, so easily giving into laziness and being discouraged and feeling like, the moment they get a no or the moment they are rejected, they take it so deeply that, eventually they start losing hope, they start losing faith, they start losing, the actual determination that they should.
I think we have to understand that we in a new generation where there's the importance of this new generation is instant gratification. With social media, what you see now is what you gotta get now. Look, they even they were able to transform the whole fashion calendar from, produce it now and buy it now, which is just like caustic creativity. So that's the different generation, I think that basically allow us to see this, that I think there's good with that, for sure. There's good things with the new ways of doing things, but also we always have to look into the fundamentals of how things were done, in order to balance those two things, because good things takes time to build, and good things like for you, and I'm sure it's the same way. Like people would think that you just, say today I'm going to play here and the world going to follow. It wasn't like that. You knew what you had to do behind the closed doors in order to get to that, and how many rejections probably you had, or like,
Oh, still to this
deceptions you
day,
have.
brother. Still to this day. Still to this day, we're facing that. And you would imagine
Only
that because of how much you've accomplished. Sorry for the noise. I'm next to the word. So, but it's like you would hope and imagine that because you have achieved X amount of clout or accolades, it would be a little bit easier. But it gets more complicated, as a matter of fact, in many ways.
It's true, man. But look, I think this is what the beauty of this opportunity we have of communicating with each other and exchanging this is that what I'm hoping is that we can share our own journeys
Sure.
for the next generation or even anyone that's watching right now to think that don't think that this was all built one day to another.
No, and that's the thing. People only see the tip of the iceberg, but they don't realize the
Oh,
body of work. It's, as you mentioned. I mean, I love the fact that you've taken us on shortly, but on such a deep description. It took you almost a year, or two actually, to actually get a yes, as you kept on knocking at these doors.
and then when I got a yes, didn't mean that I started going right away. There was more rejections I had. Every time I would go places, they were like, no, and but you got to keep going until somebody eventually see that, what, this guy, I have tons of stories to share with you in another time about, times when I went to Paris where people were afraid to take on the black models because they didn't think that it would work ever. And then,
But it's
everybody
interesting.
that wanted,
I thank you for going there. Excuse me to cut you, brother.
sure.
Actually, that's exactly where I want to go. How has it been being one of the how do you call this, of the very first black African men in the fashion industry on the catwalks, working for the biggest fashion brands, Louis Vuitton, Dior, Mugler, etc., etc. I mean, it must have been, first of all, an amazing experience in many ways, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure you've had to endure a couple of moments where you just had to swallow maybe certain, as we say in French, avaler des couleuvres. In other words, we swallow snakes.
Yep, I know.
Please, in other words, how was it? How was it then, and how is it now to be a black man in the fashion industry? And
Brother, it's a long time coming. I think my experience from when I started to what the fashion is today, and I'll give you one of the biggest examples, which has happened to be my brother. When I started, it was difficult. I will tell you, in London, I never had an issue. After I signed up, one of my first job, I went to my first casting, which was I think it was an editorial for ID magazine with Simon Foxton shooting with Nick Knight. That was my first job.
wow,
And to this day, Simon Foxton is like a very dear friend of mine because it's somebody that is very pro-black, and he understands the value of what any individual can bring, and he respects that. And but I never had an issue. So when I was in London, I immediately started doing all the editorials, campaigns, and then I remember my first international fashion show came 6 months later, where I went to Milan and I was exclusive for Calvin Klein. At that point, everything was fine in London, and what I was with, a lot of black models didn't have, which was my book was rich of editorials, rich. If I say rich, it's because every single month I had like maybe 3 to 4 different spreads in all the fashion magazines. I went to France and I couldn't find an agency because the first thing was they didn't even look at my books. They just a black guy. It's I don't know, how can we make this guy work in Paris? So that was one of the first difficulties I had. And I remember right after my first show with Calvin Klein, everyone came up to me saying, "Where are you from? Where do you live? Do you have agency here and there?" So my agency in London set up an appointment with me to go to Paris with the train. They said, "Look, Louis Vuitton is interested in working with you, but it's not sure they're going to book you because they want to see you in person. So you're going to take a train from London to Paris. If you work for the show, you stay. if you're not confirmed, you're going to get the same train back to London. I said, sure. So I did it. I got there and they saw me. I didn't get the job, so I had to come back to London.
Wow.
And yeah, it's true. So that was the first thing through my agency in London. Then 6 months later, they said, look, it makes no sense that you one of the main guys that doing everything right now, and we still not able to place in Paris, which is a very important market. So we have to, we made a couple calls. You should go to Paris for this weekend, and we're gonna, next week, early Monday, you're gonna have a appointment with a couple agencies, and we'll see which one's gonna stick. Went to I think it's Ford at the time, which I think was very keen on signing me. But then I got there, I don't know what happened, we all have a bad days, but the booker there at the time was like, he received me, we talked, but he wasn't enthusiastic. Then I left to go to this agency called Natalie, which, I tell you, man, to this day, my agent, Geraldine in Paris, she's with Elite now. It's like probably one of the closest person to me, because it was the first person I saw that saw me right away, and she said, I've been looking for you all these years, and if you wanted to sign with us, it's going to be done now. But when I left London to go, they told me that Ford wanted to sign me. So the agency was keen for me to be signed with Ford.
Of course.
Luckily I was in touch with my emotions, and for me, I want to go where I'm accepted. So right after I left, I said, listen, okay, sounds good, but I need to speak to my agents in London. So I called my agent and I said, look, I know you might want me to sign with these guys, but the way I felt here is just like, this is where I want to be. Let's go with it. They want to sign me, I want to do it now. So they're like, no, let's wait. I said, no, this is my decision. I have a say on this. I want to stay with these guys. So I went back the next day, I signed with Natalie. I tell you, brother, it felt like I wasn't the guy that nobody, was sure to work with. Immediately, everything that was supposed to be given to any other black person was, given to me. And we all were like, what's going on? Why this is happening now? It was so difficult to sign up, but now finally, I'm here. So this is how it happened. And there's so many other events. From that moment to now, and that was one of the main reasons where, as a brother, understanding the difficulties and the length of time that you have to go until you establish yourself. I didn't want my younger brother to be in fashion when he wanted to, because as his brother, I just didn't want to see him going through all of that. But luckily changed. I think, for him, Fernando's first job was H&M campaign. And right after that, he was like Louis Vuitton show in Paris. After that, like Milan shows, I don't know.
But you paved
what it is today. What Fernando achieved today, in my time, he probably would have taken some 15 years before he was able to get it. And I think this is why we all have to look at that boy and be like that guy, and really be proud of what he achieved. Because
100%.
It's incredible the level of work and body of work he already accumulated from the period since when he started until now. It's unbelievable. So it's definitely changing. I think fashion is now fully where it's supposed to be, and the diversity standpoint, but it's going towards that. And I only hope that it's not a trend that's going to be sticking for another year or two and then vanish, because that's the problem. There was always a time where they wanted a black guy, and then he goes away, but it seems like this one is sort of like staying for now, and let's hope that it's going to stay that way.
It is staying, brother, and I would like to echo you on that, and actually ask. That's exactly where eventually we are going to actually. Even more in depth in this conversation. What do you think is your contribution, besides what you've already done? And as a testimony of that is the obvious hard work of your brother, which is obviously not something that somebody has done for him. He's done it for himself. But the way he did himself. Exactly, but the way has been paved for him to be able to at least not have to wait 15 years in order to accomplish all the amazing things that he's managed to accomplish so far, and that is yet to accomplish, in the coming years and beyond. What do you think, as a gatekeeper, clearly, and somebody who has a very important role to play within the realm of this industry, what do you think you can actually do to make sure that this is not a trend and it's gonna last for
Well,
as long as possible?
absolutely. I think we all have to be the gatekeepers. And I think that I hope that my presence is not only the only thing that I contribute in fashion, because yes, when you look at it from, psychological standpoint, my profile helped a lot of young kids. And I came across so many models today that came up to me saying, wow, I wanted to be a model because of you, or you inspired me, or I look up to you and your brother. I saw all the great things you guys have done. Just like myself, Tyson Bedford, many others, paved the ways for me to be here. So I hope that my contribution paved the way for many, but I think the job doesn't stop there. What I want to do
Exactly.
is always be vocal, is to be able to kind of continue to speak my mind and, be able to contribute in the positive change the fashion world is doing, which through my brand, through my company, through my,
Exactly.
my modeling career still
That's
to this
exactly where we're
day,
going.
communicating with people. And I take a huge responsibility,
Hmm.
obviously, to now repeat the history,
Hmm.
in fashion, at least with my company, and not showing diversity and inclusion that we all crave. So, it's a huge responsibility. And then for me, this is where I always say that, I sit in the two spectrums of like of this conversation. One as a model and one as the other part of the client. And it's my responsibility. And first and foremost, my company is for all. But what I would like to see and would like to translate to people rather is that the world is diverse, but also I want people like myself to be represented just like I was able to represent some other brands. So that is it, it's definitely one of the missions for me, and it's something that I can never rest until we contribute significantly in both spectrums
Of
in
the
this
picture.
industry.
Now, it seems clear, it's rather obvious to me, and I guess for many, that you've always had a very, very, very sharp mind when it comes to business. I've read an interview of you. I don't know which magazine or for which platform it was, but you say that you've always looked beyond sort of like the appearance, and you've always tried to learn in depth about the business that you were involved in, which was the fashion world, etc.,
Yeah.
and understanding the dynamics of it. Obviously, you've said that you studied finances in the UK. I believe I've read that you work for
Yeah.
a wealth
Wall Street.
management company. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
you do have a business mind, right? How would you say that I would say academic formation helped you shape, first of all, your vision? I would say the answer is rather obvious, but I would like for you to give it to us nonetheless. And secondly, how has that shaped the idea for you to start uh, in the business of footwear, which is absolutely complicated business?
Yeah, I didn't know what I was setting myself for, by the way. Afterwards, I was like, oh my God, if I knew I was going to get out of this right now. But it was way too late. No, no. But yes, look, I'll take that as a compliment, at least that, coming from you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, brother.
Look,
It is.
I've always, like I said, I took a lot of these references from my father to begin with. It started from home. My father is somebody that, very well educated person, and he always considered education like, part of your passport in order
Absolutely.
to travel the world. You might not have everything you want, but when you have
Hey.
knowledge, it takes you places. And so it was on that basis and those, fundamental things that I think, I was able to pick up and try to create the same thing for myself. Like I said earlier, when I was finishing my high school in Portugal, he figured that it was important for me to learn another language, to speak English, and to go to Portugal. By the way, I speak French, not because I've ever studied in France, but because, his, academic background, he studied French in France and all that stuff. That
Absolutely.
he spoke. I had a French was like when I was in high school, it was one of my, chosen subjects. So, I had to learn.
Of
And
course.
but then he wanted me to add in another one, which is Portuguese, yeah, English. So I went to London. And, I think we already, to get this in a deeper place, we come from a very disadvantaged place where, we have to fight for opportunities. And when it
100%.
comes without a, educational base as well, it makes it even worse. And I think, speaking in general, education is something very important that will take anybody anywhere. And it was in those bases where I thought, I will try to educate myself as much as I can, especially when I have the opportunity to do so, which I'm very grateful for. And, I just wanted to better myself in order to contribute. And I'll tell you furthermore, one of the reasons why I started this business, at the time, because for many people, they don't understand that, I wasn't trying to be famous. I wasn't trying to be in any way, but I used my personal finances for years, like 5 years straight, which could have given me leverage today in many other ways, to start this business. And like you said, I had no idea about making a shoe or even two things that I used was my academic background, number one, which is, I studied business, so I understand the process of starting a business. I understand how do you go about, creating a business. And then that with my knowledge of fashion industry kind of gave me the impulse of saying, you know what, I'm going to go. Oh, luckily, I have to say also a little bit of a strength financially at the time in order to start a business. And what I wanted to do was that, I looked at it in a sense that, wow, you're bringing me memories of all my early designs. This is beautiful, man. Some of these things I haven't seen in years.
Yes, brother. I had to bring this up, man. Gotta let
Wow,
people know about, the great work, brother.
unbelievable, unbelievable. I can just right now remember the blood and sweat and tears that went through making all of these things. I mean, it's incredible. But look, I wanted to figure out a way to contribute to my society in a better way.
100%.
And I gave a great example that many people don't know. I said when I was in London, I was able to work in some of these places where I work. Some of those founders don't even know a guy like me existed. But whatever the reason was behind them starting their businesses, monetary gains, or whatever the reason was, they created an opportunity for us young guy that was in the UK at the time and trying to just do something for himself. And I believe that those guys somehow contributed to their society. So when I was here, it was something, my very dear friend Chris, who's also happened to be my manager and accountant, he said to me, why you want to do this? What's the underlying real reason behind this? What do you want to do?
Exactly, that's a good question.
I was like, yeah, well, I know I love shoes. He's like, no. You don't have to give me the answer right now, but go
Think about
think
it.
about it. What is it? So a couple of days later, I called him. I said, I know why I want to do this. So I told him the story, and then I said, look, this is the thing. If I'm able to build something where I can give opportunity for others to express themselves creatively in order to kind of like contribute to what we're doing, be able to give them something to pay their bills, and I contribute to my society. Whether it's one person, whether it's two, whether it's three, then I can call myself successful because I'm contributing to my society in ways that I
100%.
can.
100%.
And that was the notion, and that was always the mission for me to get going with this. And Kalav might be able to tell you the difficulties I went through building this up, and brother was with me there all along. But I was determined. I said, somehow I'm going to contribute it, and I'm more than ever determined to continue with this now, especially in the times that we're living in.
And so this leads to, I guess, as we're coming almost close to an end for this conversation, we have about 15, 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
I wanna ask you, what do you see your company developing in the coming month? Or I would say, what is the vision for the next
Coming years, probably months. It's a
Yeah.
little tough right now. We don't know where we are.
Well, I mean, we still have to prepare. I mean, I would, if you allow me to just interject quickly and answer my own question. I think as much as we don't know, we still are, I believe, what you call the entrepreneurs. And so we have
Right.
to always keep a sharp mind and always be ready for any given situations. And as the
Thank
entrepreneur
you,
that you
brother.
are, and as you know, and certainly experience yourself, clearly, you know, uh, going through these uncertainties is part of our life as entrepreneurs, independent and self-finance business. You know what it is. So
Of
I,
course.
I guess let's not even put it in terms of months. Maybe for the next 3 years, given and putting in and keeping in mind that we're entering a completely new way of living our lives, and
Absolutely.
considering
Yeah.
that COVID-19 shifts
Yeah.
our livelihoods. What do you
Yeah.
see Armando Cabral footwear, the whole business, what it is that you're building outside of that? What are the advices you can give for young entrepreneurs? I mean, get into it, brother. I'm letting you conclude on this note. I,
Well,
I think
look.
I think I think it's important to talk about business because
Of
allow me
course.
to add a little bit more. You saw beyond the hype, you saw beyond the fame, and you saw beyond being, at the forefront of magazines. You understood that you had to build legacy, and that required for you to have a vision, and started a business that was yet a challenge, but still you managed to push it through, and here we are, and here you are, successful and building on the vision. So please go ahead. I just wanted to,
Of course. No,
add that.
no, thank you. Yeah, look, the vision hasn't changed for me from day one. When I wanted to do this, it's like I had a mission, I had a purpose, and my purpose, the intent was always to be, part of the contribution to my society in many ways. And one of them is like, we all can be accountants, we all can be basketball players, we all can be
No.
football players. But if I can, through my company, my vision, which is footwear, accessories, contribute it, is what I wanted to do. And so my vision always been clear. Obviously, as we all know, nothing is static. Things have to change, and we have to adapt to the situation, especially right now. This situation of COVID-19, first of all, kind of like put all of us in a very difficult situation where we had to rethink the way we do things, and now we're going to move forward. And yes, when I said to you in years to come, that doesn't mean that we don't do on a daily basis a routine of figuring out what we're going to do the first month after things just go back to normal. And we already in all of those plans. But to give you just an insight of what we're doing right now, the focus is that we have to realize, and to me particularly, it's very important that we have to, more than ever, focus into working together, creating opportunities within our own fields and our own lines of network. And most importantly, one of the things that we've been planning since early last year is to tap into the African market, where, we have to figure out a way collectively to share our product, our visions to the continent. So that was one of the first things that we always wanted to do. We wanted to expand into our, product offerings and, bringing women and bringing some additional accessory lines, which is all of the works. But if you ask me in the long run, I want to see Armando Cabral as a true fashion house that
100%.
contributing and giving the opportunity to, to the masses and contributing positively in, the way we work, the way we source everything that we do, what we provide to others, and internally be an example for what we all try for. So that to me is something that I want to do for Armando Cabral for as long as I'm able to do.
Brother, wow. Inspiring. Hey, Baba. You're bringing that knowledge. I love that. And I love the fact that it's a statement. It's a very strong statement. It's a full-on fashion brand that I believe, I mean, I'm a fan, right? And again, I have to thank our good brother Sam and Shaka for connecting us.
I remember
And
that
being,
day, by the way, when we connected. It was
it was amazing, and again, I think that your humility speaks volume, your accomplishment speaks volume, and your vision and drive speaks absolute volume, and is quite an inspiration for somebody like me and many of us, I believe. And that's why I really am thankful for you willing and being really, really involved in sharing that story of yours. Because as you said very right, very, very beautifully, before we even got in the live, we were on the phone.
Yeah.
We didn't get where we are. You didn't get where you are by the blink of an eye. Yet it does feel like a blink of an eye. When you look back, you're like, damn, it went by so fast.
Oh yeah.
But it's not, you know.
Exactly.
And I thank you for that, brother. I thank you very much for sharing this with us, because I think there's a lot of people, young entrepreneurs, women, men alike, and I think people need to hear these stories. People need to understand that, you know, you have to endure all those no's in order to get that one yes that's going to change your existence. And as you say it very well, you had to be open. You had to listen to your inner voice and receive the message when it was sent to you.
Thank you. No, look, brother, and this goes back to you as well.
Thank you, bro.
Again, you have to take what you're doing. Just the fact that you invite me to this, which I am more than, you know, words cannot describe my appreciations for, you know, including me in this, because I think this is what we have to do. Like I told you earlier, when we cross, oftentimes we don't really, you know, spend time talking about these things, or at least there's not enough time, which I vow that moving forward, every time we're together, we're going to have to spare some time to kind of discuss these things
100%,
like this.
100%.
I think it's important. We cannot just be together when there is fun and have fun, and then when difficulties come, everybody's in their corner trying to fight by themselves. You know, it starts by creating a plan today. And just to tell you, I don't view myself in any ways of how people perceive me sometimes, by the way, simply because I think that I too am craving knowledge. I learned by talking to you. I learned by talking to Kalaf. I learned by talking to Sam Shaka and many of our friends. And we have to continue this narrative. I think the important is for us to continue to show the integrity that even in the difficult times, we're not going to be what we're not or what we're trying to be.
Exactly.
And then kind of continue with that path, like I said earlier. You know, we cannot disappoint the Nelson Mandelas, the brother Martin Luther Kings and Malcolm X, and many others, Amilcar Cabral. They laid the word today. So, all of them, you know,
all of them.
We have to figure out a way, more than ever, now that we have access to education, now we have some access to, you know, places and networks and opportunity to connect. It's on our hand to leave a better world for our children, our brothers, and the next generation that's coming. And I'm simply trying to be a part of what I can do. You know, I don't have the full answers, but I think I count on your voice. I count on the voice of all of us in order to get there. And I'm going to try to continue to do my best with the help of all of you and everybody.
Right on.
In order for us to get to where we're going. And like before anything, I want to tell you, like, been a big fan of yours as well for many years. And but where you blew my mind that night, last summer I believe it was.
Yes.
In Portugal, you invited us, and I'm in this space. I'll tell you a quick brief before I finish that. Just I don't want to go out too much, but I'll tell you this. There was two reasons why I wanted to be a basketball player or a football player. You know, one, because I think I'm a good football player. Basketball is debatable, I'm not sure, but you know, I know that if I decide to do something, I will do it. I always wanted to do it because, you know, through these things, through sports, you can bring people together and you can create a voice. When I went to your concert that night, brother, and I saw how you brought people, and you brought people together not to protest, but actually enjoy, you know, love, to share what you have inside of you with people. I was blown away, brother. It was like, the place was packed outside. I couldn't find a place to park around the whole area. So I didn't even remember where we parked. We parked far away and we had to walk just because of the people that were going to see you. So if you don't know that, and I know you do, your greatness is greatly appreciated and you've got to continue. And you have a full support from me and I'm sure from the whole cast. We have to rally behind each other, man.
I appreciate you for saying that. I commend you for saying that, because you're very right. We must honor each other as we are still alive. You know, I was, as a little parenthesis before we come to an end for this conversation, I was in absolute in a state of absolute sadness when I saw a couple of days people latching on the brother Virgil Abloh for some so-called 50 euros donation, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I was receiving messages from people because I did that song Virgil Abloh with Badi, and people were like, coming at us saying, well, you see, y'all was, making a song about this guy who's who's a selfish man. I said, look, first of all, you're idiotic. Excuse me, but how can you even fall into this kind of stupidity, making this kind of assessment, coming with some, close-mindedness, thinking that somebody of his stature would actually, even for him, it doesn't look good to put that online. Come on, are you stupid? And then it resonated with me that a lot of our sisters and brothers within the Black African or African American or just the Black diaspora, and no matter the shades and colors that Black represent under the realm of Blackness, we have a tendency of taking each other down whenever one of us seems to have a moment of weakness or seems to be on their knees on the floor. This to me disgusted me to the highest level. When people took pictures of his daughters and his wife and called him a slave, I mean, this hurt me, and it felt like it's an absolute disgrace from us towards another brother or another sister that is out there really trying to break boundaries and open a pathway for the generations to come. And brother, look, I commend you for doing what you're doing and staying courageous and staying true to your vision, because you, as much as a Virgil Abloh and anyone else, are the brothers who are opening the ways for all of us.
Can I tell you something? I think you said it so well, eloquently, that I think I have not much to say, but I would add just that that's our virtue, which is like somebody would be doing great. When he was appointed, we all rally with him. Oh my God, yes, great. And now, a little mistake, whatever you want to call it, you want to put the brother down rather than tap him in the back and say, I might not agree with your move, but you know what? Readjust yourself, and we're still with you. And I think that's the important thing that we have to really open up as a conversation as well, because the world by nature, we're very quick to judge.
Too fast.
I am sure that I probably have made mistakes, or I'm about to make mistakes that is not even here yet, that people will probably be quick to judge.
But we will be there to back your brother. We will be there.
I hope so. No, but this is the thing. I'm not even afraid of that. I'm telling you that's because that's the human nature.
Yeah,
you're going to make mistakes. But when we are accountable for what we, what we cause to others, we have to be accountable and just, and then hopefully that, they will see that, I'm sincere, and you move on. And it's terrible. It's personally, if you tell me, I think there could have been different ways that Virgil could have been, involved for sure. But to take him, and especially when it comes to that subject of adding somebody's personal family into things.
No, you don't. You can exactly, brother. Come on.
That's where the line is crossed. Like
that's my whole point. Keep it to him. Don't bring his children.
Yeah, I've done so much all this to try to protect my family. Aside from my personal mistakes or anything that I will be involved in. And I've always seen the difficulty or when you in that level to
Not to cut you, brother. We are coming to the end of this hour. We have 40 seconds. Let me start another live so we can actually conclude this, because it's important to really
narrow it down.
Let's do it right quick. Yes.